Okay, a blessed and graceful Wednesday evening to everyone who are logged in this virtual room. I am Ma'am Bernadette L. Lejarde, the Division Career Guidance Program and Homeroom Guidance Coordinator, DepEd Division of Pampanga, Central Luzon. Indeed, I am humbled and blessed for this opportunity as a moderator of tonight's discussion on strengthening the qualitative inquiry through related literature and studies. To commence our activity for tonight, let us give first homage to our country through the Makabayan song, to be followed by a simple prayer via AVP. Okay, once again, good evening po. Okay, so this event is an initiative of the ETCOR Educational Research Center to equip its research consultants with the necessary knowledge and skills in the conduct of research, as well as enable them to become better research consultants. This series of events, while they are intended for ETCOR's research consultants, are also open to the public, especially to students and educators who wish to improve themselves in the field of research writing. I would like also to acknowledge the presence of the following: Dr. Richard D. Sanchez, our head research consultant, and Dr. A.C. Lagman and Dr. Ian I. Linares, and of course, all ETCOR's national consultants, regional coordinators, provincial, division, city coordinators, and all ETCOR research consultants who are present in this event. Okay. At this point in time, I would like to call on the virtual floor for the welcome message to be delivered by Dr. Ranulfo L. Visaya, Senior High School Faculty, Garing National High School, Consolacion, Cebu, Philippines. Take it away, sir.
Good evening, Doc. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Am I
yes,
audible?
Sir. Loud and clear po.
Good evening, everyone. To the officers, men and women of the ETCOR Educational Research Center, webinar participants, fellow research consultants, good evening. Once again, we are gathered for another worthwhile educational undertaking. As we aspire for quality teaching and learning as part of our duty in the educational sector, it is just right to keep us updated on what's latest in our field of specialization. And ETCOR, being an organization that puts premium on quality professional development to its members, is on the right track of making sure that its members and interested parties are on top of their professional learning communities. And tonight, the topic, strengthening the qualitative inquiry through related literature and studies, is equally important as we highlight the critical component or contribution of related literature and studies in our research work. As we want to contribute to the existing body of knowledge or create new ones, we need to utilize or cite the most reliable literature and studies available. And I know our resource speaker tonight, Professor Valdez, has new insights that we can truly use in our future research undertakings. Lastly, I would like to thank once again ETCOR and its officers for this remarkable undertaking. We know very much that it takes uncompromising commitment and consistency on the part of our ETCOR officers to have a series of webinars. And thus, this necessitates our relentless participation. May this webinar inspire us to be the best in our respective fields. And so even in the midst of the pandemic, let us continue to be knowledge creators. This is our modest and noble contribution to making the world a better place. Welcome to our webinar tonight. Let's have fun while we're learning. Thank you very much and good evening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ranulfo L. Visaya, for that heartwarming message. Truly, we will be enjoying our tonight's event po. Thank you so much again, Dr. Visaya. Okay, so for tonight, we shall be having a very interesting topic. As I mentioned a while back, it's all about the strengthening the qualitative inquiry through related literature and studies. For our participants, please take note that assignments outputs are to be submitted after the event to the lecturer's email address and copy furnished embracing the culture of research at gmail.com. Okay, for the smooth flow of the webinar, Please observe the following. Turn off the microphone. You may or may not open your camera, but if can open, please open. Use an identification, the acronym of your institution and your last name and first name, example, PNU Flores Marites. Questions or your thoughts may be typed in the chat box to be entertained after the talk. Okay, so truly we are very fortunate to have a respectable and dignified person, the research officer of La Consolacion University, Philippines, City of Malolos, Bulacan, Philippines. Our resource speaker for tonight's event, none other than Professor Janet R. Valdez. A virtual applause for Dr. Janet.
Good evening, Ma'am Bernadette Lejarde. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
I'll
Good
be stop
evening.
sharing na po, no?
All right, thank you so much, Ma'am Lejarde. Let me start sharing, right? Slideshow from beginning. Oops. Okay. Am I right with this, Dr. Sanchez? I have something on the top and at the bottom. Can you please help me with this? Can I take this off?
Which one po, ma'am?
There's what do you see on your screen?
Your PowerPoint slide po, ma'am.
There's nothing on the side and on top.
So, ano ba? Parang okay naman po siya. Or
okay.
Yung picture niyo po ba na sa ETCOR profile picture ninyo nakalagay sa PowerPoint? Kasi parang may
hindi po. No. This one should be off. Okay, let me just put this down. Okay, I think I did it. Okay, then just this one is covering some images. So how do I do this? Okay, anyway. Good evening, colleague, culture of research consultants. Accept my appreciation in having the pleasure to share my humble and menial knowledge through research and experience on qualitative inquiry and related literature. Allow me to start on the topic called Strengthening the Qualitative Inquiry Through Related Literature. For common understanding among us right now, the topic is aimed at strengthening the qualitative inquiry. This means that it is assumed that everybody knows qualitative inquiry. The topic is also delimited on an approach in strengthening the qualitative inquiry, which is through the related literature and studies. And as what Dr. Visaya had mentioned earlier, it is similarly relevant in terms of research. The world-renowned research author and expert John W. Creswell once said, and I quote, "Good sound research projects begin with straightforward, uncomplicated thoughts that are easy to read and understand." Following this concept, let us begin with straightforward and uncomplicated thought, which leads me to the overview of today's webinar. This is the overview of the topics for presentation as follows. Qualitative inquiry or QI, which shall be a review and enhancement of our understanding on qualitative inquiry, also known as qualitative research. The values of qualitative inquiry provide explanation on the importance of QI. This will also provide impetus on the reason and relevance of qualitative inquiry or study. Related literature and studies is also a review and enhancement of our understanding on related literature and studies. Genres of RLS or related literature and studies lays down the categorization of related literature and studies. This can broaden our search for related literature and studies. Steps in conducting a literature review follows a step-by-step conduct of a literature review. This permits a self-assessment of the process that we follow in the conduct of review of related literature and studies as a way of individual checking whether or not we are doing it the proper way. After thoroughly understanding the topics on qualitative inquiry and related literature and studies, then we will proceed to the ways of strengthening qualitative inquiry through RLS. Ways of strengthening QI through RLS shall comprise of the framework that presents the significance and effect of qualitative inquiry through RLS, through the use of the RLS, through the location of the RLS in the study, and through the use of signposting. Now, let us start with an understanding of the qualitative inquiry. On the chat box, may I request everybody to please share. On the chat box, please share your understanding of what qualitative inquiry is, or QI. What is your personal understanding of qualitative research? Now I cannot see where I am. Oh, there. All right, so probably I can. On the chat box, please. So just to get a grasp of what everybody knows about qualitative research or qualitative inquiry, I am inviting everybody to please use the chat box to give us an understanding, an idea of where we are in terms of understanding the concept. But I cannot, oh, there is the chat box. Quali is beautiful, exciting, mysterious. Quali is subjective. So quali is anything else? So there's mystery in qualitative research, and it's going deeper when you go on qualitative research. Okay. So, all right. So we have some impressions here, and thank you. Let us now go back to that. Okay. So this is what makes the presentation fun. Now I can no longer change the, okay, there. All right. So these are what I've gathered from the literature, an understanding of qualitative inquiry. Qualitative inquiry is an examination of social circumstances. Social circumstances may include social skills of children. Why do some children behave well and others do not? What shape the social skills of children, like being sociable and socially isolated? children who behave according to norms and who behave deviantly, and so on and so forth. Qualitative researchers present these circumstances following a broad approach, which means that the way of handling the study should start from a general perspective, not singling out social circumstances. It is also based on a certain assumption. This assumption that the researcher will start with utilizes social experiences that they see, like more supporters joining the BBM campaign sorties and less supporters joining the Lugaw Lenny campaign. As to how they feel, qualitative inquiry researchers can assume that the more supporters joining the BBM campaign may be translated into votes or victory, or the assumption may be translated into a feeling of Robredo's defeat. Qualitative inquiry researchers may also utilize what they hear to start their assumption. Example will be what they hear about media repression of the truth due to political pressure. This assumption may be heard by quality researcher repetitiously from media practitioners. The interpretive nature of qualitative inquiry is based on the meanings and interpretations of the participants of the study. While focused on a central concern for the study, responses of the participants during the interview may vary depending on their own interpretation and individual meaning, which are shaped by diverse experiences of the participants. It is interesting to know the results of the individual and group surveys on the people's choice on who to vote during the upcoming presidential election. One of the reasons was the association of the political campaign on the politically significant families in the Philippines, the Marcoses and the Aquinos. Although none among the Aquinos is aspiring for the presidential position, people attach the meaning of colors, like yellow for the Aquinos, reborn into pink for the so-called yellow tards led by presidential aspirant Leni Robredo. The interpretation of red associated with the presidential aspirant Bongbong Marcos found meaning in the return of the old glory, goodness, and discipline of the old Philippines. The political and social arenas are rich sources of meanings and interpretations for qualitative inquiry. Connected with the meanings and interpretations would be the constructivism of qualitative inquiry. A qualitative researcher constructs answers to the realms of the perceivable world. Politics and heavy politicking among the people can be construed as the reason behind their current social and economic statuses. Qualitative researchers observe the real world, identify the reality construct meaning based on that reality, and finally find the answers from the interaction with the diverse target participants. The rich real-life experiences, diverse circumstances, and perceived realities can be a ground for a qualitative inquiry. After a better understanding of qualitative inquiry, and I surely hope that knowledge adds up to what you already know, let me deal with the values of qualitative inquiry. What are the relevance and valid values of qualitative inquiry? And why should a researcher choose to conduct a qualitative inquiry? How important is it to do a QI? One of the values of QI is to hear silenced voice. Silenced voice refers to what Malone in 1999 narrated as the story of a community who, with the support of the researcher, endeavored to peel back the layers of debris which had muffled their voices. This constructed debris, social, physical, cultural, and historical, serve to reproduce the power of the other, the so-called other, through processes of false consciousness. A good example of a good example of the silenced voice were the comfort women during the Japanese occupation in the Philippines, who for a long time had kept their silence in telling their stories due to the humiliation imprinted by the experience. Cervelius et al. In 2020 described the marginalized communities as those excluded from mainstream social, economic, educational, and/or cultural life. Examples of marginalized populations include, but are not limited to, groups excluded due to race, gender identity, sexual orientation, age, physical ability, language, and/or immigration status. Marginalization occurs due to unequal power relationships between and among social groups. On the other hand, a vulnerable participant is any individual who lacks the ability to fully consent to participate in a study. In the US, there are some groups who have identified by the federal regulations as vulnerable populations: pregnant women and fetuses, minors, prisoners, persons with diminished mental capacity, and those who are educationally or economically disadvantaged. Pregnant women, prisoners, and minors have specific sections in the federal regulations that provide additional rules for studying these participants. In the Philippines, this population includes the illiterate, the non-readers, and the non-writers, and the cultural minorities. Qualitative research provides avenues to work with these groups of population in presenting their observable and generally perceived concerns, issues, and problems. A qualitative study addresses social justice issues. Issues on poverty, inequality, racial prejudice, perceived injustice, and other concerns of the society may find its way of revelation through the QI. The researcher is instrumental in exposing and addressing societal issues. With the scare on the pandemic, QI finds primordial importance on the person-centered healthcare and the design of clinical trials. Needless to say, volumes of qualitative studies are focused on the adaptation to the new normal, flexibility of various sectors of the society on the health and medical protocols, and resilience of the multiculturally diverse global population. Any questions on the qualitative inquiry, my dear colleagues, fellows at the ETCOR? Are we going on smoothly? I am not adding fun to this. I hope I'm just adding knowledge a little bit. So,
okay lang po, Doc. Proceed po.
No question. Okay, so next is...
Nothing. It's very
thank you so
informative.
much. Thank you so much. Next is related literature and studies. Although I assume that everybody knew related literature and studies, I would like to verify with you some common understanding of this part of a study, because I maintain related literature and studies as the backbone of any inquiry, study, or research. One should start with a good related literature, and previous researchers found out their research for answers. Okay, so we would like to see what you know about related literature and studies. So on the chat box, I would again request everybody to please give me an idea of what you know about related literature and studies. Any impression, anything fun about related literature that we do not know? You can use the chat box to share. Qualitative research is an exploratory study focused on the in-depth. Okay, thank you, Miss Mary Jane. How about in related literature? What is it that keeps you from getting good qualitative related literature on qualitative inquiry? What is it? What is your impression about RRL or RLS? You know, we find a little expertise when we use these abbreviations, these acronyms, because you know medical doctors would normally use OR for what is this, the OR for operating room or something like that, and then we can also use QI for qualitative inquiry. Psychologists would use IQ. Now, how about RRL? What do you know about RRL? Any impression from the participants? So, it's boring. Yeah, I know. RRL support the concepts of your study. Yes, okay. But yes, I would agree with Dr. Sanchez. A lot of students will drop on RLS or related literature because they thought it's a boring activity in the process of research. Okay, thank you. Okay. Now, I think those are the only thing that okay, for some of my students, this is a dreaded part because they are somehow forced to read a lot of references. Yes, RRL support our concept. Thank you. Standing on the shoulder of giants, getting expert to support you. Thank you. Okay, so these are actually, I like what Maria Cecilia Adefuin said, that RRL support the concepts of your study. Yes, we agree that it is dreadful to the students because of a lot of readings, and we are getting, yes, Dr. Carvajal, we are getting expert to support us in our study. Yes, thank you so much. Now, let me go back there again. Okay, so there's the problem again of going forward. Okay, there. So, oh my God, my battery is low.
Okay, so while we're waiting for Professor Janet, so indeed, it's the discussion is truly very informative. Ayan po. Okay, so let's just wait.
Intermission ka muna, Doc Det.
Yeah.
While waiting for...
Okay, so I'm intently listening to the discussions actually po, no?
Ako, Doc Det, gusto ko yung entrada ni Doc Janet, yung because the topic is about strengthening the qualitative inquiry through related literature. Gusto ko yung banat niya na na it is presumed na alam mo na ang quali because the topic is strengthening. Parang ang doon, parang how can you strengthen something that you do not know the basic in the first place, di ba? Kaya very yung lahad ng objective ni ni Ma'am. Tsaka yung dun sa kanyang dinilimit na niya yung topic niya na strengthening in so far as the use of RRL. Kaya talagang very good itong speaker natin.
Yes, of course po. And you know for a fact that the strength of qualitative research as a type of research lies on its characteristics po. No? I'm just wondering, Doc Chad, regarding your answer about related literature.
Yung
Why
boring.
do you
Naku, joke lang
consider,
yun.
yeah. Why do you, reality bites. Talaga naman pong, di ba? Talagang I agree with what Professor Janet mentioned when she said that the backbone of the research also lies in the strength of the related literature and studies.
Kaya pala
Okay,
yung
I
mga
for one,
kaya pala yung mga ginagawa ko halos hindi makatayo, walang backbone.
yes. So now you know, Doc Chad, that you have to, kung ano yung kailangan mo para magkaroon ng backbone yan.
Tama.
Okay,
Kayo
so
po, Doc Det, dahil sa guidance and counseling kayo, mostly quality research din, no? Yung sa inyo, no?
yes po. Actually, I have lineup of, lineup, no?
Wow.
Wow. Okay. So, let's read some of the,
Opo,
dito
abang
sa,
wala pa si Doc Janet.
ayan. Okay, so, from Ma'am Mary Jane Castillo, literature review serves as pillars to your investigation. It is the anchor for your research direction. Tama po. Okay? Maybe, pwede po bang mag-on cam? Okay lang ba, ma'am? Mary Jane, para naman po, makita ka namin.
Doc Det, si Ma'am Mary Jane, siya yung nakasama mo sa ano? Ano ka ba? Makakalimutin ka na?
Ay,
Siya yung nakasama mo sa review ng Region 3, yung sa NEAP.
yes. Sorry. Hello, Ma'am Mary Jane. Binuko pa ako ni Doc Chad talaga.
Nagtatasya yata ng kamay si Ate Mutya. Gustong baka mag-share.
Sige po, opo.
Hello po, good evening to
Good
everybody.
evening.
Magandang gabi po. I'm just curious. It's based on experience before. Parang we were tasked to create to write a complete qualitative study out of related literature alone. Is that really possible po?
Doc Richard.
Ano po 'yon, Doc Det? Kayo po yata yung tinatanong eh. Hindi naman po ako.
Sorry po.
Ma'am Jane. It's okay po, Ma'am Chad. We have Doc Chad here to answer po your
Ano po yung
question.
pakiulit po, Doc Mutya? Hindi po kasi ako
Opo,
prepared.
kasi hindi po natanong ko lang random lang kasi before I remembered in doctorate class, one of our professors tasked us quickly to come up with a qualitative study merely depending on related literatures. And then I was like, is that really possible to come up with a qualitative study just relying on available related literature?
Palagay ko pwede siya. Parang I don't know kung tama yung sagot ko ha. Naku, mawawala yung respeto niyo dito sa akin. Asan ba si Doc Adrian? Doc Adrian, alam ko nandiyan ka, magparamdam. Ayan na yung speaker natin. Doc Mutya, back to the speaker.
Yes po.
Ayan.
I'm sorry
I think
about
meron din
that.
pong answer si Doc Catain. Yes po daw, meta-analysis. Okay, Professor Janet, you may now po. Okay na po kayo?
Yeah, I'm sorry I was cut off. The good thing about this is that's the fun part in this presentation. I was cut off when I was talking about related literature and studies, and you were having a discussion. I'm sorry, I was cut off. Okay. Anyway, all right. So I know most of you know more than I do on this matter. Okay, so I'm talking about related literature and studies, and let me go to this current slide. Okay. And I was talking about, maintaining related literature as the backbone of any inquiry. Okay, and all right. So related literature are closely, let me just get this straight, because I would just want to start with clarifying those two concepts on qualitative inquiry, then related literature, and then go to strengthening. Okay, so as I was saying earlier before I was cut off, related literature are those closely related to the one being undertaken. If the topic is on media literacy, for example, results of studies on media literacy should be searched. Okay, they are ongoing debate and dialogues on the topic taken from studies before the present study on the chosen topic. They are expected to fill in gaps, intertwining all the concepts related from a larger perspective. And a topic on media literacy, for example, may be expounded to include press freedom and the journalist code. Okay. The related literature and studies frame the study to a concept that can support the current problem at hand. It can provide a framework that can later help explain the results of the study. Normally, we utilize the virtual library like EBSCO-host to search for the topic. We type the topic and the website will show you the search results. Do you know that aside from typing merely the topic to search for literature results, there are other ways to find related literature? This slide will show you the other words and worlds that can enrich your review of related literature. These are research review articles, systematic review, literature review, hypothesis development, research gaps review, meta-analysis review, empirical evidence analysis. You can type, for example, thematic review on then write the topic. Because normally what we do when we search for review of related literature is to just type the topic. For example, media literacy, we just type media literacy and then on the platform that we chose, but that's it. We are given a lot of results, but then if we would like really to go deeper into categorizing the literature, we can go use the genres of RLS. Like, for example, if we would like to get empirical evidence analysis, so that is something that we can write at the start, and then the topic of our choice or the topic that is the topic of our study, and then we can get other results of literature going deeper in what we already had earlier. Okay, so let us now look into the steps in conducting a literature review. This is based on Creswell's, of course. I will enumerate the steps one by one for you. Check as to the appropriateness of the steps, and then you please tell me if you follow these steps or if there is a need for us to change the steps. Okay?
Excuse po,
Yes.
Professor
Yes,
Janet.
Yes, ma'am.
Share niya po niyo yung screen ninyo.
Yeah.
It's not yet sharing po.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Again.
Thank you po.
I'm talking and talking and you're not seeing anything. So as I was saying to Dr. Richard earlier, I was really so nervous. Probably this is the result of being nervous in front of how many participants who are intellectual in the fields of research. There. So as I was saying earlier, this is how we can make our related literature even better. So instead of typing just the topic, say for example, as I said earlier, media literacy, then we can go into typing these genres before the chosen topic, then we can get better results of our qualitative inquiries, RLS. Okay. And I was talking about the steps, and I do not know if you followed this, but this was suggested by Creswell. So I will read them one by one, and let's see if you agree with the steps that he shared with us, okay? Identify keywords, okay? So the keywords would be, say for example, our study is on what's interesting now, the strategies in next normal instruction, for example. So we search these keywords in the libraries, physically and virtually. But because of the medical protocols due to COVID-19 pandemic, we now focus on our search on the virtual library. So our schools had actually provided us with this virtual library, but like for example, EBSCOs, I do not know what your school provides you, but every school now has a virtual library. Anyway, if the school does not have, there are a lot of virtual libraries, and I know this for a fact because when I actually usher my students to search for literature, I let them go to foreign libraries like University of Egypt's library, for example, or University of Oklahoma library. Normally, because of the pandemic, these libraries are open globally. So this is one of the advantages of what the situation we are in right now. So we search the libraries, we type the keywords, and if you want to go get some more meaning into the related literature, you are going to use the genres and then locate and obtain related literature. Now, in this case, if we are doing undergraduate study or graduate MA study, now we are actually asked to have a minimum of 50 related literature. And then for dissertation, you can have at least 100. And then we skim and duplicate those central to the topic. So there will be 46,000 or 65,000 in our literature, but we have to choose those that are related really or relevant to our study. Then from there, from our choices, we begin designing a literature map. Okay, the literature map will actually be our guide in the presentation of the related literature in thematic order. Then we begin to draft the summaries, which definitely should follow a thematic approach, then combine it into a final literature review, then summarize, then assemble it thematically. This is what Creswell suggested. Now, of course, as teachers of research or those that are conducting research, in the process of experiencing the steps in research, or of course, we start with the literature review, we find certain steps that will be more comfortable to us. So that becomes a personal choice for researchers. The related literature, let me see. I'm sorry. The related literature and studies are relevant in the writing of a qualitative inquiry. Thus, there is a format and principle that a researcher needs to follow to make a well-conceived paper. One, the presentation of the related literature should be thematic, okay? After gathering related literature in a qualitative inquiry, a map is a tool to develop the themes for the study. Next, the literature should be current. In terms of being current, a researcher should consider a span of 5 years as to the literature to be included in the review. So if it is 2021 now, inclusion should be from 2017 to make the literature current. Also, the literature should follow the generally acceptable APA 7th edition format and style. Okay, now next is, this is how I perceive the strengthening the qualitative inquiry through related literature and studies. The slide shows you the related literature perceived to be having an effect on qualitative research. Yes, as what Dr. Sanchez earlier said, it's kind of boring, but this is the backbone of the research. The conceptual framework that you see right now impresses the related literature and studies as a tool in strengthening a qualitative research. They form the backbone of the study. Thus, the gathered literature and studies can provide foundation in the development of a concept of a study. Okay? When researchers find responses from the participants, they learn from them without necessarily prescribing a question. Okay, this is one of the ways in strengthening the qualitative inquiry through RLS. Its use, the use of RLS in QI. The learning gained by the researchers from the participants generate knowledge and information which will strengthen the study. Deriving responses from the participants which are conversely similar with prior studies can provide strength in the presentation of the essay. Researchers start with the recent literature, then gain realization of the literature through the answers of the participants. The RLS is exploratory. One of the participants already mentioned it in the chat box. Not much has been written about the topic of the population being studied, and the researcher seeks to listen to participants and build an understanding based on what is heard. Okay, so that's strengthening the qualitative inquiry. Similarly, in theoretically oriented studies such as ethnographies or critical ethnographies, the literature on a cultural concept or a cultural theory is introduced early in the report or proposal as an orienting framework. Okay, so it's important that the RLS are really thematically organized, because this will be the framework for orienting the audience, the readers of the study, as to the concept that is being presented. In grounded theory, case studies, and phenomenological studies, literature is less often used to set the stage for the study. Therefore, using more RLS can better strengthen the stage for the study. Now, let us review the table that shows the use of the literature, the criteria, and the examples. Actually, I got this from the internet, so I would like you to ponder on this, because this can actually help us understand how the RLS can strengthen the QI based on where the RLS can be found. Where are you locating the review of related literature? Is it at the start, in the middle, or at the end? All of these will have some importance in the presentation of the RLS. Now, on the first row, you see there that the literature is used to frame the problem in the introduction of the study. So we find it in chapter 1, in the introduction to the study. There must be some literature available. That's a criteria, meaning you have that qualitative concept, but you are actually framing your presentation, introducing your study at the start, presenting all this related literature, because there are available literature. Typically, literature is used in all qualitative studies, regardless of type. Okay? Now, the literature is presented in a separate section as a review of the literature. This is in a 5-chapter format of a research. So chapter 1 is on the nature of the problem and its nature. And then the second one, chapter 2, will be on the review of related literature. So it is presented as one separate chapter. In the introduction of the study, it's not presented separately. The criteria is that it is often acceptable to an audience most familiar with the traditional post-positivist approach to literature reviews. So this is the traditional one, the old format. This approach is used with those studies employing a strong theory and literature background at the beginning of a study, such as ethnographies and critical theory studies. Then the last one, the last row, is the literature is presented in the study at the end. It becomes a basis for comparing and contrasting findings of the qualitative study. This approach is most suitable for the inductive process of qualitative research. The literature does not guide and direct the study, but becomes an aid once patterns or categories have been identified. Okay? And this approach is used in all types of qualitative design, but it is most popular with grounded theory, where one contrasts and compares a theory with other theories found in the literature. Okay. Now, as lastly, I am sharing this with you as an English teacher. The use of key signals or signposting words or transitional words can strengthen the qualitative inquiry. The use of these words can make for a better cohesion and unity of the concepts in the RLS. Allow me to read them to you, okay? To show that, you are about to draw a conclusion or make an inference, you can use words such as therefore, consequently, thus, hence. To justify or explain, you can use because or since. Provide a contrasting or opposing view or critique, you can use words such as although, however, while, in contrast. Or to provide illustrative or supporting evidence, you can use, for example, such as make an additional supporting points or provide additional supporting evidence. You can use in addition, moreover, furthermore, also. If you want to argue that another case is the same as the one you just discussed, you can use similarly, equally, or likewise. These signposting words are actually normally forgotten by researchers. So especially in the related literature, what we normally find among students is that they just copy, paste, or paraphrase the context of the study or the results of the findings of the study. And they do not try to have a cohesive presentation of the literature. So it becomes boring. We don't see the relation. We don't see the connection. Now, this signpost may be very, you may be very familiar with this, but then the use of which is forgotten. And I feel like using this signposting or transition words can strengthen the presentation of a qualitative research. Finally, analogous to qualitative researchers is the story on the 6 blind men and an elephant. Okay, so there is just one elephant, meaning one study, yet the 6 blind men present different interpretations of an elephant. We may have the same concept for a qualitative inquiry or an inquiry for that matter, but the way we present the concept may vary due to a lot of factors. Let me end by saying that the way to strengthen a qualitative inquiry is really dependent on the researcher himself or herself. Good evening, fellows. This is yours truly, Dr. Janet R. Valdez, one with you in embracing the culture of research. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Madam. Congratulations.
Wow, indeed, it's a wow, the Professor Janet Valdez. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you for listening, and thank you for bearing with me with all those technical issues, and forgive my nervousness.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay. Once again, thank you very much, Dr. Janet R. Valdez, for that very substantial, insightful, and very informative discussions on qualitative inquiry, values of qualitative inquiry, steps in conducting literature review, strengthening the QI through RLS in terms of use and location, and the key signal or sign posting words. Again, let us give Dr. Janet R. Valdez a warm virtual applause po. Thank you so much po, Dr. Janet.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Very much welcome.
So before we proceed to the Q&A, let us have first the photo opportunity. Yan po. So may I request, open your camera. Hey, Dr. Richard.
May naka-assign sa documentation si Dr.
Okay.
Richard din pala yung pangalan niya, si Doc
Oh,
Richard. Tama lang yung tawag mo.
Yes,
tama
sir.
lang po.
Good evening po. Pwede po bang mag-request na buksan po natin ang ating mga camera para po sa ating photo off po. Bago po mawala ang mga connections natin, medyo may problema ang mga connectivity natin ngayon. Yan. Good evening po. Yan. Okay. Sige po. Mayroon pong hindi nagbukas talaga. Hindi po ba sila magbubukas? Mamimigay po si Sir Sanchez ng magpaparaffle draw po siya ng...
Yes po, ikaw po ang papremyo, Doc Richard.
Okay lang, sir. Sige. Okay.
Hindi na ako mag-open ng cam na hina ng ano ko eh. Sige po, thank you po.
Okay po. Sige po. Done na po. Okay po.
Okay, thank you so much po. Okay, so for our Q&A portion po, or it may also be some sharing po, no? Okay.
Doc Det? Doc
Yes
Det?
po.
Hindi po na mag-oath yung mga bago nating kasama? Nasa part yata ng program. Pasuyo na lang po.
Okay po.
Naka-ready na rin si Doc Ranulfo. Nagbukas na siya ng cam.
Okay.
Thank you po.
Sorry for that, Doc Ranulfo. Please do the honor po for the oath
Good
taking.
evening once again. I would like to request our new research consultants to please open your cameras as you take your oath. Ilan ba po sila, Doc Chard?
Nakikita ko po si Doc Adele, nandito po siya. Si Ma'am Jonah.
Okay.
Opo.
Sige.
Sir Mamerto nandito.
Paki-open na lang po ng yung camera.
Sir Ronnie Landicho nandito po. Yan po.
Okay, marami-rami.
Okay,
thank you. Okay, are you ready? Okay, I would like you to repeat after me for your oath. I, state your name. Paki-unmute na lang po, please.
Mag-unmute po kayo para marinig po kung inuulit.
I, Jonah Asido,
Do solemnly and sincerely
solemnly
promise, swear, and declare
promise, swear, and declare
that I will truly and faithfully
that I will truly and hopefully
and to the best of my skills,
and to the best of my skills,
knowledge, and abilities execute the powers and trust reposed in me
and the trust imposed on me
as ETCOR Educational Research Centers
at ETCOR Educational Research Center,
Research Consultant. So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you and congratulations to our new research consultants. Thank you.
Congratulations
Thank you
po.
so
Welcome
much
po sa
po.
ETCOR.
Thank you so much
Congratulations
po.
po. Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Ranulfo L. Visaya, for administering the oath taking of our newly appointed research consultants. Again, congratulations and welcome to the family of ETCOR. Thank you. Congratulations, research consultants. Okay, so we now proceed po to the Q&A portion. You may now, pwede po kayong mag-unmute to be recognized and or use the chat pane for your questions. And our resource speaker is very much willing to answer your questions. Or if you have some sharing, you may do so po. Okay, do we have questions? Okay, so far po, wala po akong nakikitang mga questions. They are congratulating our resource speaker. Yes po.
Thank you. Actually, I would like to have an input since we are all researchers here, Dr. Richard. I agree with you with that statement that research related literature, related literature and studies portion of research is really kind of boring because it does not put the personal context of the researcher yet. So I would like to ask my fellow researchers now, how do we go about this? How do we make it a little bit more interactive or more engaging to the more interesting for the researchers, for the students in particular? How do we make related literature an interesting, motivating, encouraging portion of the of research? Okay. This some sort of a sharing, because when I look into some materials for this presentation, I encountered that really one of the things that we have to consider is that in doing a research, if we were to consider related literature as a part of as the backbone of a study, then we should make it more richer. We should make it richer, and making it richer should not be boring. So how do we go about it? Can we?
Okay, anyone po from our attendees for that, so that we can have ano po, sharing? Maybe they're still thinking, Professor Janet, or ayan, maybe they will just be typing their sharing sa chat pane po natin. So how can we make related literature
Interesting.
interesting? Yan. Ayan, so we have from, hello ma'am, Mary Jane. Okay, allow me po to read the answer of the sharing of ma'am Mary Jane. True enough, RRL's qualitative research becomes objective in treating personal lived experiences of the participants or subjects involved. RRL supports the accuracy and connections of the data under investigation. Thank you so much, Ma'am Mary Jane. Okay, any other sharings po? from our fellow researchers?
Satisfied na po siguro sila sa lecture ni Doc Janet.
Yes,
Doc
very
Det.
much.
Opo.
Opo.
Napakaganda po. Napakaganda po.
Opo.
Thank you,
Madami po talagang natutunan. Okay, so ayan, meron pa po tayo. We still have yan from Sir Paul. As for me, I introduced to my students the Mendeley for easy generation of citations and references in any format like APA, MLA, IEE, Triple E. I find it boring to generate references. Yan. Thank you so much, Sir Paul. Okay. If no other sharings po, so again, let us give Professor Janet R. Valdez a virtual applause. Okay po. Thank you so much po. Okay, so please do not forget the evaluation link is in the chat box. To our dear participants, please do the evaluation within 24 hours. The link was also sent to you before the day of the event. Okay. So allow me to share my screen once again for the next part of our event. Okay, so let us now proceed to the awarding of certificates. Okay, ETCOR, allow me to read the citations. ETCOR Educational Research Center presents the certificate of recognition to Professor Janet R. Valdez, PhD, Research Consultant at ETCOR Educational Research Center, for her invaluable time and expertise as a resource speaker in the series of national capacity building seminars on research writing for research consultants of ETCOR Educational Research Center held on October 20, 2021 until March 2, 2022. Signed, Dr. Ian R. Lenares, National Deputy Consultant for Research Publications and Trainings, Dr. A.C. Lagman, National Consultant for Research Publications and Trainings, and of course, Dr. Richard D. Sanchez, Head Research Consultant. Again, congratulations, Professor Janet R. Valdez. Thank you so much po. Okay. Ayan, so
Thank
please
you, ma'am.
continue. Apo. Thank you po, Professor Janet. Okay, so please do continue supporting our upcoming events. So on November, allow me to enumerate them. So on November 24, 2021, Wednesday, 6:30 p.m., we will have Dr. Adrian Lawrence P. Carvajal, Dean, Institute of Graduate Studies, San Sebastian College, Recoletos, Manila, Philippines, on the topic strengthening the quantitative inquiry through related literature and studies. And also, we shall be having the ETCOR's International Award for Outstanding Educators and Researchers, and our I Join ETCOR's Research Journal. Okay. Also, our ETCOR's official t-shirt and polo shirts sold by Blueprint Shop, owned by Dr. Mark Joseph V. Sangil. It is not ETCOR that is selling the shirts, but Blueprint Shop. We are only a beneficiary of certain percentage of the sales. Interested customers can contact Dr. Sangil through his Facebook account. And our activity finally come to an end. Okay, so for the closing message, may I call on the virtual floor, Dr. Richard T. Catain, College Instructor, Colegio De Montalban, Rodriguez, Rizal, Philippines.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Bernadette Lejarde. Good evening, everyone, to Dr. Adrian Carvajal, to Dr. Richard Sanchez, to our speaker this evening. Good evening. Tonight's presentation of Dr. Valdez gave us additional view of appreciating qualitative research undertaking. As presented, our speaker put premium on making literature review a crucial element in enriching all qualitative researches. Ngayong gabi, binigyang emphasis natin yung salitang backbone ng research doon sa presentation. So ganun ka-importante, ganun kahalaga ang preparation of necessary related literature and studies. Our role as educators entail continuous aspiration to improve our craft, and research is deemed necessary. So we are very grateful to the time, effort, and expertise of Dr. Valdez. Tonight we've experienced a connectivity problem, but she managed to finish the entire presentation. So congratulations, ma'am. We thank everyone for joining our activity this night. So with that, thank you very much po, and magandang gabi sa ating lahat.
Thank you so much po, Dr. Richard T. Catain, for the closing message. Okay, so this has been your moderator, Ma'am Bernadette L, the Division Career Guidance Program and Homeroom Guidance Coordinator, Department of Education, SDO Pampanga, Philippines. Thank you very much po for joining us in our today's event. Okay, to